Hello?
Franny,
Mom?
your brother was in an accident. You need to come home.
I've been reading Henry's journal, going to places he went to.
You got your little heart set.
My brother Henry was hit by a car this week. You're his favorite.
I'm so sorry.
I've started recording sounds he might recognize.
Hey.
Hi. He would really flip out if he knew you were here. He's kind of obsessed.
The day we met, my life.
I'm going to this place Henry likes tonight. If you want to come.
Sure.
Like an angel,
I'm glad you're here.
an angel. I made my camp upon the hill. So why did you fly away?
You know when you have a feeling you don't want to fade away, but you don't really know how to keep it? That feeling comes back when I play for 3 to 5 whole minutes.
When you told me you must forget and forgive, you must forgive. Just
When are you heading back home?
Day after tomorrow.
and forgive to be free.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for turning out in numbers for Anne Hathaway. We've just been chatting it up backstage. I feel like I could chat to you for a long time.
You're very easy to talk to, which
No,
is
you're very-
I'm very
you're-
grateful for at this exact moment.
You're a friendly celebrity. Some celebrities aren't so friendly. They're very nice, but, you're very warm.
Oh, everyone's very nice.
So let's talk about the film. This audience here just saw the trailer. I don't think any of you have seen it yet. You made this right before Interstellar, is that correct?
Yes.
So do you have to have like a Jekyll and Hyde personality to switch from a film like Interstellar to something like this? Or is it just the same because it's all about your performance and preparation?
Well, there's that. So they definitely have that in common. I was actually it's just funny because I signed on to this project with my husband to produce it in 2011. And then a couple weeks later, I got cast as the part. And we didn't know when our financing was going to come together. We had a lot of work to do. We had to put the music together. We had to find James Forrester, which we did, and Johnny Flynn, who's wonderful in the movie. I'm really excited for everyone to discover him. So we didn't know when it was going to go. And then it just wound up happening that it was the tiniest film that I have ever done would be slotted before the largest film that I'm likely ever to do. And there was something about the characters that really served each other. They're very, very different. I hope the performances are different, but they're two smart women who are emotionally closed off and who wind up opening by the experiences that they have throughout the course of the film.
I like that. That's a good analogy. But I have to backtrack because you said you took this project on as a producer, and then you said I got cast. Now, as the producer, couldn't you cast yourself? Or did someone else cast you?
Not even I am that arrogant. No. I believe as an actor, and I do also believe as a producer, your job is there to help the director realize their vision, whatever that is. I read the script, obviously, I responded to it as a producer, really wanted to see it exist. I loved Kate Barker-Froyland. It's her first screenplay, it's her first time directing, and she has such a unique quality to her. She's very quiet and very deep, and also she's made of steel. I mean, the tenacity of this woman is unbelievable. And I was really drawn to her. I was drawn to this quiet, soulful quality that she had. And I love that there is this big question mark right at the center of the film, which is, okay, this is a movie about this cult indie musician with this record that people have become the soundtrack of people's lives. What does that sound like? And Adam and I were both drawn to, being invited along the journey to discover what that sound was going to be, to maybe even have a hand in picking the people who would do it. And so I read that script, loved it, and found myself, going back to it again and again. Who's going to write the music? Who's going to write the music? And then I'd be on the treadmill, and I'm like, that's a really good line Franny has when she describes that relationship with her brother. And then you're on the subway, and you're like, when Franny's on the subway and she's thinking about this, I bet oh God, I'm in love with her. And I was just drawn to the character. So then I called Kate. Well, I asked Adam first. I said, do you think this would be gauche to come on as a producer and then sort of say, by the way, please cast me? And Adam said he thought that I should ask, and we'd find out. Kate thought about it for a couple days because it meant she had to change the age of the character, who was originally written to be 24. But then she decided that she thought I would be a good fit for Franny, and that's how I got the part.
I don't know. You said this is Kate's first film, and I've never seen her. I just looked at pictures of her. I mean, she looks so young. You obviously felt very comfortable and confident in her talents.
Well, I'd known Kate for a few years. She was David Frankel, who was the director of Devil Wears Prada. She was his assistant. So I knew her, and I knew her vibe, and I knew that I liked her, and that, which is very different, which I'm not saying that just because you like someone's vibe, you should work with them on a movie, but it doesn't hurt. But the big thing was that the script came to my husband and I via Jonathan Demme, who directed Rachel Getting Married, and whose opinion I trust in all things, but especially film. He has impeccable taste. And so if he sends you something and says, I believe in this is something special, he's usually right, and I think he was right with this one.
Your first producing project with your husband, I imagine picking that first script is, it's the first step on, a new career, a different career, a side career for you. A huge deal. Obviously, 100% sure, song one, that's it. You and he together, you're like, this is it, this is our baby.
I think if we thought about it in terms like that, like we're announcing ourselves as producers, I don't think we would have done it. I think thinking about it on such grandiose terms, probably, I know it would have terrified me. I can't speak for him. But it just felt very organic. It was brought to us specifically because it was a small movie, and we had expressed an interest to Jonathan about producing small movies and kind of just seeing what it would be like. We just approached it with a great sense of curiosity. I've been doing this now for 15 years, but being an actor doesn't mean you know how to make a film. And it's very different being an actor than being a producer. It was very humbling, and it made me appreciate all the producers that I'd worked with over the years.
Now, there's a lot of the producing work, I imagine, is pre-production, getting ready. How much of a producer were you once you got to the set, once you were shooting, or did you switch to Anne, the actress?
Well, I'm one of a team of producers on this one, so I did switch over, and the actress, Jonathan Demme, kind of pulled me over. I think about 5 weeks out from filming, he just kind of said, hey, we got this, you just go be Franny, that's the way you can best serve the film. And by that point, I'd been involved in finding Jenny Lewis and Jonathan Rice to do the music. I was definitely involved with casting, and Kate obviously hired everyone she wanted, but I was in a lot of those meetings. So I just kind of thought, okay, that makes sense. I should act. But I just tried to fill in the experience in little ways if I could. Like, we were a low budget movie, so we filmed at some pretty gnarly locations, and so you show up with the scented candles and the air freshener so that people don't have to sit in a really, really organic, mulchy bathroom, and which are not fun, but they're all over New York. And I guess maybe that's why Airbnb is renting them out now. And then, we didn't have air conditioning, and people were struggling in the heat, so I brought in a cooler of ice packs and things like that.
But so if you're, money's tight, lights failing, whatever's happening, and you as an actor are messing up, you as a producer would be like, come on, we've got to move it here, right?
Yeah, totally. There were moments when I really wanted another take, but as a producer, I knew we couldn't afford it. So there's always that push-pull.
Right. Do you recommend working with your husband?
Working with my husband,
well,
yes.
One's
working
husband,
with one's husband, I'm not sure. My husband's awesome to work with. He's collaborative.
He's here, so she has to say that.
I'm staring right at him, by the way. He's wonderful. He's collaborative and supportive, and doesn't have an ego when it comes to this, but has pride. he's really good at this. I've worked with a lot of producers, and I'm not just saying this because, you know, I'm going to see him later, or right now, but he really is excellent at this, and I think and I look forward to watching his career unfold.
Was he on the set as a producer every day?
Yeah.
And that doesn't, because I can't do stuff like this in front of my husband. I get extremely nervous for some reason. Did it add to your confidence, perhaps?
Well, I think because there was I had to open myself up. When he comes on set and he's my husband, I'm nervous. But when he's the producer of the film, it's just different. And that was this reality. And so this reality was, there was a producer there who I knew very well. And actually it was really helpful in the early days because as much as I liked Kate, I didn't know her on an artistic level in the same way that I know my husband. And so, you know, we would do a take and sometimes I would turn to him and he would give me the thumbs up or, well actually you never really did that, did you? No, you were always very supportive. One more time, you got better. No, it was good at settling me if, you know, when I was still finding the character and feeling a little unsure to look up and find his eyes. And it was especially great when things went well, like you have a good take and you look up and that was something new to share. And that was great. But like on Les Mis, I asked him to leave England.
I'm not quite that extreme. My husband is in the New York City area. But the film is very much about, as well as the music, which we'll get to, the film's very much about falling in love and those first moments of connecting with someone and, you know, real soulful eye contact and everything. And I know you get asked this all the time as an actress, but I'm still fascinated by it. Doing those scenes, especially when your husband's on the set, and capturing those, like, really personal moments, intimate moments with another actor. Mm-hmm. Is it just day at the job for you, or?
Well, I don't know how it is for everybody, but I know that for me, at some point, I let the character take over my life, and I don't fully go as method as, well, not all the time, where I can't live my life or I can't talk to my friends. I kind of play it case by case. So in this moment, it wasn't like it was entirely me. I mean, I was kind of Franny all the time, and Johnny wasn't Johnny. He was James part of the time too. So you have that going on, but also we're all there to serve this energy that we're hoping we can create in a believable way, that we're making so that other people can create it, and you know, we have to. The first step is in us believing it. So that never felt weird. I mean, that's the sort of stuff that maybe if you do something else for a living, it seems abstract. But when you're in there and you're doing it, it just kind of feels obvious that this is what's going on. Like I said, it also helps that, you know, I really have a lot of respect for my husband. He has very little ego, but a lot of pride, and he was always able to put the job first and never be weird about it, which was, I think, everybody really appreciated.
Yeah. So about the music, the film is very much about finding inspiration, and there's so many films that try and capture creativity, whether it be an artist or a writer. You know, you have scenes of people writing and painting. It doesn't always work. How does this film manage to capture the struggle of inspiration and then the joy of creative high?
Well, I think one of the things the film does really successfully is it captures the unpredictability of inspiration. Also that it's a lot of times out of your control. You know, I would love to do 3 or 4 movies a year and just flow from thing to thing, but not every character touches me in that way. I'm not inspired by it. The opportunities don't always speak to me, and you can't explain why, and then all of a sudden, maybe you haven't worked for a while, and then the right character finds you, and you're able to give everything to it, and everything that you've been through in your life, all of a sudden, which felt kind of random and unconnected, suddenly makes sense, and serves this, I don't know, this insight that you need. And I'm having a wonderful experience with my life with that kind of snaking my way through that journey. I love it. And I think the film captures that. I also think Kate, I don't know if she meant to do this, but it was something that I really loved about the film. And it wound up, the more time went on as in pre-production and as we had to get our financing together and get the script right, the more this aspect of the film appealed to me, which was Kate wrote this screenplay in 2008. Brooklyn was one thing. In 2015, Brooklyn is a very different thing. And I'm not complaining about this because I shop there all the time, but like One Kings Lane did a sale the other day on Brooklyn Cool. You know, and that's part of Brooklyn's identity now. It's been commodified, it's been gentrified. But Kate, in telling the story of a budding artist, my younger brother Henry, who's 19, she's still able to capture that magic and that romance you feel for a place where you find yourself as an artist. And I think she found a way to bring us into that feeling too. So as much as I'd love to snark about it and roll my eyes, I'm captivated by its sincerity because in the character of Henry, she made it truthful. And I think Franny is moved by that, my character, and I think James Forrester, who's an artist who's been struggling with writer's block for 5 years, is moved by it too. And I think Kate did a really good job with that.
Authentic is a good word to describe this film. It really captures real people, I think. So let's talk about Johnny Flynn. He's the actor who plays your love interest. He seems like a catch. I mean, you know, tell us about the process. I mean, as an actor and a musician.
You half mean it as an actor.
Right. But how did you find him? Because I don't think he's that well known here.
Mm-hmm. So I think I mentioned that, you know, we were so excited about finding the music for the movie and what that would be. When we sat down with Kate at the first meeting, we had two caveats, which were if we can't find the sound, the music, this film shouldn't exist. And then if we can't find James Forrester, this movie shouldn't exist, because we can't ask people to go on this journey unless we believe that these two elements are so worthwhile. So we searched for James Forrester for over a year. We met with a lot of people. We met with some musicians who were interested in acting. We met with some actors who were interested in music. And we thought we came close a few times, but there was just this elusive something that we couldn't really find. And then it was just one of those great, eerie experiences, kind of mystical, where on the same day, Kate found the song The River, which is one of Johnny Flynn's songs. I forget how Adam found it, but Adam discovered him on his own, and I got a call from someone saying, I know you've been looking for an actor. There's this guy named Johnny Flynn, and somebody called me and can't stop raving about him. So we all found out about Johnny on the same day, which feels really cool, except then when you know Johnny, who is himself a very interesting and spiritual person, you're like, oh, that just kind of makes sense. Then he self-taped. It was great. We felt like we had to meet him, so we looked at all of our schedules, and the only day that we could all meet him, because we had to go to England because he was doing a play at the time, was 3 days after my husband and my wedding. So we got married on September 29th, and on October 3rd, we were in London with Kate Barker-Froyland, our director, on our honeymoon, meeting Johnny Flynn, and we saw him perform Viola in Twelfth Night at the Globe in the Mark Rylance production. And he was, dressed as a woman in full classic Shakespearean get up. They do it with the original costumes, which is incredible, with this very funny looking wig and the Queen Elizabeth white makeup. And we were just captivated by him. We thought he was so excellent. And then he took all that off, and we went to a hotel, and he read, and it was so clear that that elusive something was before us. He's so deeply talented, and especially his musicianship has such an organic power to it, but he himself is such a humble, unassuming, soft-spoken man, and that was the thing that we were looking for. We needed to find someone who it makes so much sense that people adore him but feels uncomfortable with fame, and who would feel that, and is so sensitive that you could imagine something like that would have an effect on them. And from then it was just, we just wanted him to be in it, and thankfully he said yes.
He's extremely charismatic, I think, for all the non-flashiness about him.
I was just going to say, he doesn't feel slick.
No.
He doesn't feel like he's trying. He's just a very inviting presence. He's become a really dear friend of ours.
So you shot in, a lot of it was in Brooklyn, right? And you lived in Brooklyn recently?
Yeah. Well, I was born in Brooklyn and moved to New Jersey when I was 6. And then my husband and I moved back to Brooklyn a few years ago. Now we live out in Los Angeles.
Right. So Brooklyn, like you said, it's still very hip, though, isn't it?
But it's more than that. You know, like, yes, it's hip and it has that, and well, I guess we put a bird on everything in Portland, but it kind of has, you know, it kind of gets summed up in that way, put like in that kind of that hipper than thou put a bird on it thing. But it's also a place full of real people with dreams and just people who are trying to make it and trying to find themselves and who are trying to live interesting lives. And it's New York. It doesn't get more romantic than this, you know. I mean, maybe Paris, I don't know. But for me, this is, I mean, every time I come back, and like I said, I don't even live here right now. Every time I come back, I fall in love with it all over again. And I remembered something I wanted to say but got distracted because God knows these answers are long. Something that I think, oh no, I forgot it again. It'll come back.
You know, that's happened to me, and it'll pop into your head in like a couple of minutes.
I remember it.
There you go.
Okay. So one of the things that I think Kate did, and one of the ways that I think she excused the film from maybe the pressure of being hip because of the world it's set in, because Kate didn't want to make a movie about hip Brooklyn, was built into the story. The stakes are so high in this story. My character and her brother have been fighting for 6 months. He dropped out of college to become a musician. My character is an aspiring intellectual who makes very sensible grown-up choices and has had to do since she was 15 years old and she lost her father. But still, her brother comes to her with a dream and she just shuts it down. And Ben Rosenfeld, who plays Henry, we talked about what could she have said that really drove this nail of discord between them home. And I came up and I said to him, I think the last thing Franny said to you was, great, that's just what Brooklyn needs, another mediocre musician. Yeah.
It's pretty tough.
But she thought she was doing the right thing for him. She thought she was protecting him. So he rather appropriately tells her to go herself. And they haven't talked for 6 months. And they're young enough that you think you can take that time for granted, that it'll heal itself, that eventually you'll find each other. And then he gets hit by a car and goes into a coma. And Franny just has one of those moments of lightning bolt clarity, which is, I am absolutely 100% wrong. And I don't know how. This situation feels impossible, but I have to make this right. So with stakes like that, Kate's not interested in showing you cool, hip Brooklyn. She's trying to show you, it just serves as a backdrop for this girl's awakening. This, you know, we kept talking about Franny as an icicle, and we kept saying she thaws throughout this. And even though it sounds kind of uncomfortable or clunky to say, she heals in a lot of ways through music and by allowing herself to believe in her brother's passion.
Is music important to you creatively? I mean, we all know you can sing fantastically, and you can. You don't sing much in this film, but you know the film is about music. Do you know what rocks your world musically?
Oh, it sounds so self-serving, but Jenny Lewis, she wrote the music for the film with Jonathan Rice, and she's been rocking my world for a decade. I discovered her around the time, I think maybe, around the time of doing press for The Devil Wears Prada. And I can't describe it. I just fell in love. She's just so cool, and her lyrics just go bone deep. I love her. Patti Smith is like my goddess of everything. Right now I really love St. Vincent. But, you know, I love all things. I love opera. I love country. Can't ever get enough of Dolly Parton. And I'm a child of the 90s. Like, I love forever grunge, you know. So I'm all over the place. But music means a lot to me, and it's become a really important part when I act. It's been an important part of my process.
You shot the film on locations, a lot of time with handheld cameras and natural light. As an actress, as a producer, that made sense. As an actress, you're like, oh, natural light. Well, no, I mean, you don't need to be because you're young and gorgeous, but you know,
sweet.
Natural light can be tough, right?
Yeah, I mean, I felt very protected in my vanity because she's someone, she just flew across the world. She's jet lagged. Her brother's in a coma. So those were like my conditional reality. Those were my circumstances. So I thought, if this lighting is a little harsh, if I look a little tired or a little strung out, you know, all the better, because she's kind of living in between worlds, in between times. She's not really sleeping. She's probably not eating that much. And so I thought I thought my haggardness would serve the part.
That's very noble of you. We didn't talk about Mary Steenburgen, who's such a great actress and is popping up in all kinds of things recently, I feel. But she plays your mother. Tell us about that relationship, because that's always an interesting one.
Sure. Well, so one of the decisions Kate made was that she didn't want this to be a movie that was too heavy on backstory. She just kind of said, you know, these are people, they're getting to know each other under very unusual circumstances. It's not your typical love story. I want to hear everything about you. So you sort of take these characters at face value, but it was very important for us as actors to know why our relationship was the way it was. And so Mary and I had to do a lot of work to kind of knit together this tension between these two women. Why can't they get along? What has existed between them? And, you know, which was we needed to have a lot of trust in each other. And I felt every day I did a scene with her, I just looked up and I said, thank God this is you. Because I felt like I could do anything in a take, and she would just be there to catch me. And she's not, and that's who Mary is as a person. She's non-judgmental, she's warm, she's funny, she's curious, she's generous. And I was just really excited. And also, like, when I say generous, I mean, at first, she was on our list, and then we found out she lived in LA, and we couldn't afford to fly her, we couldn't afford to put her up. And when she found out that was the reason why she wasn't on our list, she said, I'm a local hire, I'll figure it out, don't worry about it. And so once we heard that, we're like, well, of course, yes, please come and be in our movie. And she flew herself out here, and she put herself up, and she just, I mean, that meant so much to us. We're such a small movie. And that level of generosity from her, it made all the difference. And she's so wonderful in the movie. She's so free. And I just adore her as a person. I learned a lot from her on this.
That's a wonderful story. We have time to take some questions from the audience. Please shoot your hand in the air. Right behind me here.
Hello. We're in the thick of awards season, and as someone who has many, many awards under your belt, I'm just wondering if there are any performances you really liked this year, or anything that you're looking forward to seeing.
I like them all. Everyone is nice, and I like them all.
Do you have time to see the movies? Have you
seen them? Yeah. I mean, I have to vote. So I've got to see them. It feels weird talking about it because I'm not saying this de facto because I don't like other people's, but I thought Whiplash was incredible and one of the most exciting films I've seen in ages, and I was so very, very moved by Bradley Cooper's performance in American Sniper. If you haven't seen it, I mean, he just goes to a place I've seen very few actors go to, and he's an absolute revelation in it.
I would agree with both of those.
And then, by the way, there are a lot of great films that didn't get nominated. Just throwing that out there.
Yes. And, yeah, exactly. Lego Movie. I'm still reeling from that one.
Everything could be awesomer.
I mean, right? Okay, any more questions?
Hi, I just wanted to ask, what was the point in your career when you first realized that, yes, you're putting 100% into this and you're going to do acting for real?
It's funny, we were just kind of talking about that before we came on here. There are two moments for me. One was getting cast in Brokeback Mountain and being invited into that company of actors, which, by that director, Ang Lee, and looking around and going, okay, you've been invited into this very, very, very excellent team in the big leagues. Like, you better show up. You better prove this to yourself. And I left that experience going, okay, I think I might be an artist. I think I can do this. That role was a real stretch, and I think that went okay. The moment for me that I realized I really couldn't and didn't want to do anything else was Rachel getting married. That was and remains I've had some awesome experiences, but that was just really sublime. And I had a year to prep that character. I worked on her every single day for a year. I loved her so much. And Jonathan Demme just put me in the middle of a company of like 300 actors, I think it wound up being in that movie, because the whole thing's a party. And each one of them was just living this gorgeous, authentic life. And I just felt so lucky to be around them. And in the middle of this character, this girl who was flawed but was fighting with everything she had to be a better loving person. And even though she was very easy to judge, she was living her life with such fierce compassion. And I left that experience, and I remember the last day of filming, and I was sitting in a van with Bill Irwin, and he said, "How do you feel?" And I said, "Satisfied." And that was the first time I was ever able to say that. And that was the moment I realized I was going to fight for that feeling for the rest of my life.
Question here.
Hi. I was wondering, do you have any advice for acting students or future actors who would like to, make it or get out there?
Yes. It's the advice that I would give myself looking back, which is listen better. And I'm not, like I said, this is not directed towards anyone. This is purely towards what I would say to myself. It's a hard thing to grow up, and it's a hard thing to find your voice as an artist, and there's this mixture of what's the moment when I stop just saying the things that other people have said with great confidence, do I start thinking for myself? And I think there's a give and a take between the moments in your life where you feel comfortable putting things out there and the moments when you need to pull back and cocoon yourself and ground yourself creatively. So I'd just say, learn to listen. It's the thing that's going to serve you the best, and I think learning to listen is going to help you find your true authentic voice, which is really what's going to help you as an actor. The other thing is round yourself out. Don't just act. Don't just make acting your only thing. Find other things to love too, because it will make you a more dynamic actor, and it's weird, it will come in handy one day. And good luck.
Good answer. We have time for one more question.
Anne. So one of my favorite roles that you played was in Rachel Getting Married, and in your character in that movie, she also has a history with her brother, and her brother ends up dying in a car accident because of her drug abuse. But did you find yourself bringing that character into Franny a little bit because it's a little similar? Did you feel that happening?
Yeah. So when I did Rachel Getting Married, I did something which I'm still shocked that I actually went there, but I called my little brother and I said, hey, so there's this scene where my character's looking at pictures of her little brother, and they're talking about casting like little boys to play him and take these photos, and I just know I'm going to think they're fake. Do you mind if you were such a cute kid, can I just use your pictures? And he was like, what? He's dead. And I was like, yeah, please. And he thought about it, and he said, okay, that's all right. And then he came. We had the premiere for the movie last night, and he came, and he saw the movie for the first time, and he's like, you had to film at McKibben Lofts? And I was like, yeah, I know, you lived there. And he used to live there, and so it's weird when your family shows up in your work, and I'm very lucky, they're very, very generous, and I know that like this is my second guilty sister with her little brother story, but they were very, very different. I think in a lot of ways, Kim is further along on her journey, and I think, in some ways she would look at Franny with envy for the experience that she's going through, because Franny is one that she still has a glimmer of hope in the situation. He's still there, he's breathing. For Kim, that there's a finality to that she has had to learn to cope with. And so I'd say they're sort of in two different levels, but well observed.
Yeah, really.
By you, not me. Anyway, God.
It was a well-observed question.
Yes.
I get that. You know, I could live without another Iron Man movie or another Fast and the Furious movie. Why do films like this frequently not have sequels? I mean, I feel like this film ends, but I want to know what happens to them. Just like with the Before Sunrise trilogy. I mean, I hope they continue with that. Is there any discussion about continuing with Franny and James?
I mean, I have my own opinions about where it could go, but not currently. I think one of the strengths of the film is that, and I don't want to give away the ending, but it's open-ended. I think this is a film that actually allows for a lot of projection. And it's a quiet film. It's you know, and it's actually pretty slow in the beginning, and that's intentional. And it's intentional so that the moment of release really hits you when it happens. And we talked a lot about what we think happens next. I think we were pretty evenly split about people thinking it went one place and people thinking it went another. And I think it's really up for the audience to decide. But I have a whole sequel in my head.
Okay.
I'm thinking road trip.
All right. Well, there's something else to look forward to. Everyone go see the film. And thank you, Anne Hathaway, for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.